From these sweeping changes within the Charleston County School District to the latest on the Old Naval Hospital, I sit down exclusively with South Carolina State Representative William Cogswell Jr. for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Representative William Cogswell, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, man. How you been?
Great, how are you?
Well, doing very well. Merry Christmas to you.
Likewise. There's so much going on within the Charleston County School District and even the South Carolina legislative delegation, particularly Charleston County. What is it like to be you these days as a lawmaker?
I feel like you're getting pulled in a lot of directions. I can say we're pretty busy right now, despite not being in session quite yet.
Right. Not yet. And as you head into the legislative delegation coming up, as far as the legislative session that is, what can we expect from William Cogswell? What pre-filled file bills do you have right now?
Well, the main pre-file bill that I have deals with the accommodation tax, trying to allow local municipalities and counties, for that matter, the ability to have more say in how and where their share of the accommodations tax can be spent. Specifically, I'd like to be able to see that be used for things like flooding relief.
Flooding relief. Where are we right now with flooding relief in your particular district?
Underwater. It is. I would say I can answer that by saying we're not nearly far enough to where we need to be. We need to have more funding from the state. I'm hopeful that the mayor's application to the State Infrastructure Bank will get serious consideration. It's going to take some time, but I'm glad we're at least in line. I think we're going to need to really push on our federal delegation to help us. But the problem is, Quintin, that flooding is an issue, and like a lot of infrastructure, that is something that people can't really envision or think about, because, especially when it comes to people in politics, because it's not 1 or 2 years down the road or in the next election cycle, but it's solving for problems that are 5, 10, 20 years down the road. So,
and what do you look at when you see flooding 5, 10, 20 years from now?
Well, I hope I see less of it. And the way I think that will happen is not by changing the weather patterns, because that's not within our control, but doing things that are creative and innovative in terms of solving for rising sea levels.
Rising sea levels. What innovations do you have in mind right now?
Well, the flooding task force that the governor actually put together 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I served on, and it had some kind of out-of-the-box thoughts. And I applaud bold thinking when it comes to public policy. And, you have the known fixes like the Calhoun West Drainage Plan, the reconstruction of the sea battery wall. But then you have other things like using wetlands as natural stormwater retainage. And those are things that require thinking outside the box. And while the commission's report, a lot of people, or some people, dismissed it because they felt that some of its suggestions were not realistic or practical. I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater there. I think there were a lot of things in that report that bear some serious consideration.
What are you considering right now?
What am I considering? You mean in like what I'm getting my kids for Christmas? I'm considering a lot of things right now, Quintin. The session's coming up. A lot of people forget that legislators have day jobs too, so this is a really busy time of year for my day job,
Sure.
especially not only because it's the end of the year, but also because I'm getting ready to be gone, largely gone for 6 months. So we have a lot going on, a lot of exciting things. So that's been a lot of my focus, but not all of my focus. Certainly, I've been keeping tabs on the political pulses and the initiatives that we plan on tackling when we go back to Columbia in January. And those, I would say, education is going to be the number one out of the gate thing that we're going to take up. And I'm optimistic that we're going to end up with a bill that we'll be proud of. I think that the House's version is being changed or has been changed in the Senate. I think they've put in a lot of good modifications. I think that we all agree that it would be nice to get teachers some more funding, and I think we're going to be able to do that because we do have a surplus. And I know the Speaker is committed to, as is the Governor, as you've probably read, to making sure that they get an additional pay raise over and above what they were given last year. So, I'm optimistic on the education bill. I will say, as I've said before, it's probably 40 years overdue, but I'm glad we're making some meaningful reforms there. What else is going to happen in the upcoming session? There are a lot of things that are jockeying for position, but I think it's going to be an interesting year. It is an election year too, so that always throws a little bit of gasoline on the fire. So we'll see what happens.
You talk about that surplus. When you look at the surplus, what are you looking right now at, Representative Cogswell?
Well, I'm looking for it all to come to Charleston County, but that ain't gonna happen. It's. Let me just say, Quintin, there are a lot of hands in that cookie jar. What I'm hopeful is that we can be fiscally responsible with that money. I mean, it is taxpayer money, and there are a lot of obligations that the state has that they need to deal with. There are a lot of pet projects that people are hoping to get funding for, and I can appreciate that. People want to get money back to their districts. I want to get money back to my district. But we still have the infrastructure issues. Flooding being one here that's critical, going back to our early conversation. And then I know you're going to see a good portion of that surplus go to teachers. I can't say exactly how and where it's going to be spent. It'll be heavily debated, as it should be. But I'm hopeful we can not only get some money back to given districts, but also deal with some of the issues, lingering issues that the state has on a statewide basis, and not just kick the can down the road.
Let me stay on education because the Charleston County School District moved forward on Monday with proposed changes impacting schools across the county. On Tuesday, state legislators are pushing back against the decisions made by the school board at Monday's meeting. And the district approved sweeping changes, including phasing out kindergarten through second grades at Buse Academy and turning Meminger into a countywide magnet school. I know State Representative Leon Staphanakis has filed a bill, that is, to reverse the decisions made at Monday's Charleston County School District meeting. He says, this quote, "We got involved because of the public outcry, and since we're being involved, we have similar experience where you're allowed to talk, but you don't get answers." What type of answers are you looking for right now from the school district about your district?
Well, my district includes Buse and Meminger, and I'll tell you, Quintin, very, very candidly, that I've probably gotten more calls on this issue than any other issue since I've been in office these 4 years. And it's a lot of concerned parents, both from Buse and Meminger, a lot of concerned teachers from Buse and Meminger. I've had them in this office. If you were to have asked me this question or asked me about initiatives that the school board's considering 3-4 months ago, I would say that's not our lane. It's the school board. I was elected to serve in Columbia, not on the school board. But when you have your constituents and your voters calling you because they can't seem to get answers elsewhere or get clarity elsewhere, you have a responsibility, in my opinion, to engage. And so that's what we've done, the legislative delegation. And we, as you know, wrote the school board a letter and said, look, we applaud your efforts, but maybe you need to slow it down because we're getting an incredible amount of calls on this. And they, appreciated the letter, but then we had a meeting and we further relayed to them the concerns that we're hearing. And I think Representative Staggeranakis and Representative Gilliard both said, the same kind of made the same point, and that is that if you don't have the teachers and if you don't have the parents and if you don't have the students on board with these sweeping reforms, it's not going to work. And that's what we were hearing, and we were trying to convey that in a very honest and open way. And they chose basically to ignore it, which is their right. I mean, they have their perspective and they've done their own homework. And let me say that I personally really won't weigh in on how right or wrong all of their initiatives are. I will say that I do applaud them, sincerely applaud them for taking bold steps because I think it's very much needed in Charleston County. The one complaint and frustration I have, and that has caused me to sign on to this bill that Representative Staggeranakis has put together, is that I don't understand why they have to push it through so quickly. These are major, major changes, and that affect families, that affect teachers, that affect kids. And I don't understand why it needs to be done next August, why it can't be a phased-in approach. If you give it time, I think it will be better received by the community, allow families to react. But the problem was not only the timing on forcing it through, but specifically with Houston-Memminger, you had 9 different versions of a plan from when they first initiated it or contemplated this until 2 days before they took the final vote. So there was no clarity. There was no understanding of exactly what they were doing. I still don't think there's full clarity on what's already been now voted on. I think they're going to, sounds like when it comes to Memminger and how that's going to go down, it's still a work in progress. And to me, that's a very flawed way of going about it. I think it needed to be a lot clearer, cleaner message, and give it time to be implemented. So those are my biggest frustrations with it. Again, it's not the merits of what they're proposing, it's how it was handled and the timing.
The timing. I know Staggeranakis basically told Channel 2, quote, you will see votes in the House of Representatives to put the brakes on what they're doing and force them to re-engage with the public. How do you want them to re-engage with the public now?
Again, I've talked to a school board member, and one suggestion that was not my idea, but I think is a good one is, maybe there should have been some sort of subcommittee to make recommendations that can be voted up and down on, because versus any school board member having an idea that can be put on an agenda, debated, modified, and voted, and then enacted right after that vote. I mean, that to me is a problematic way of going about things when you're talking about major moves on education in Charleston County. So I think there should have been a cleaner kind of package deal that was put forth, that was voted on with minimal amendments to it or tweaks to it. That has not happened. It's all, as far as I can understand, been somewhat piecemeal together, and sometimes reactionary. And again, I want to reiterate that I applaud the school board's efforts and initiatives and intent behind these bills, behind these actions. But there's a way to do it that I think would have been a lot more successful. Because right now, from everything I've heard from my constituents, there are not a lot of people that are happy. I mean, there are some people that are happy about certain parts of the bill but can't stand other parts. And, I get negotiation, and I get that not everybody's going to be happy, and there's compromise that's needed. However, again, the way this has just evolved and pivoted and been a little bit frankly, all over the place, it seems, I think has been very problematic, and has been very frustrating for these parents, for these teachers.
What's the ideal timetable that you're looking at right now?
Well, again, I mean, I give you an example with regards to Houston Memminger with this merger. I mean, I think if they gave it 2 or 3 years to and did a phased approach for the merger versus all having it happen in one go, I think it would be a lot more successful and have a lot more support from the parents and the teachers. I don't know why they felt the need to rush it, but I think it's going to be very problematic, and I think you're going to see people from all parts of the community that are going to be not necessarily displaced, but kind of out of the equation. So I can't tell you an ideal timing. Again, I wish we were able to just stay in our lane, and I'm not an expert on education, but I can appreciate execution, and this one, I think, has been a lot of failures on that.
Speaking of negotiations, let's talk about the old Naval Hospital.
You're switching gears on me. Okay.
Where are we with this?
We are very close, actually. I believe County Council is voting tonight on some proposals that we have been working on with county staff for quite some time. Actually, we initially were introduced to the Navy Hospital when it was in the news, and the county ended up buying it back. And some concerned members of council were trying to figure out what to do with it, and they actually asked the Chamber of Commerce to put together a group of people in the real estate and development community after they'd only gotten one bid on the RFP. It was for a really low number for the building and all the property. And so I actually ended up going to that. I was actually coming back from Columbia, and it popped up on my phone. I'd forgotten about it and turned off on 526 and went to the chambers. And it was a very interesting conversation. The county officials that were there were very open and honest. And the real estate community was there and gave some I thought, positive feedback on it. What got me engaged after that meeting is my partner Jay Weaver and I have invested, or at that time were investing in some buildings on the Navy Yard, and we also are finishing up a project in Park Circle, the Croco Mill. And the Navy Hospital is this kind of icon that sits, if you look at it on a map, it's the third point on the triangle, and we were. The more I thought about it, the more not concerned, but just interested I became in how they all kind of tie together from a regional perspective. And so, long story short, we started looking at the economics. We really dug deep into it and have done a lot of work on it. And it's evolved in a way that I think, and it's been very open book with the county staff, and I think they've been appreciative, and I've been appreciative of how they've handled it. But in the end, what council's voting on tonight is for us to buy the Navy Hospital. Not actually all of the land.
Okay.
We couldn't afford it. It was too expensive, but we're buying the hospital itself and one other parcel. And then working with them on developing that they would own, the county would own a social services hub, which is much needed, and I'm excited about that too. So it's a pretty involved. I think it'll be a pretty interesting deal if it's approved. It's a lot of risk to us, but we're very bullish on it. I actually think it's a really cool building. I can tell you it's incredibly well constructed, believe it or not. You know, it doesn't cost $6 million to tear down something that's poorly built. So we're not tearing it down. We're going to renovate it, and our plan, Quintin, is to do about 300 apartments that will cater to the new bus rapid transit right down the rivers right there.
Right.
It won't be subsidized or affordable housing, but it is going to be geared towards the workforce. So, not nearly as expensive as downtown, but it's not going to be, as I say, subsidized. So we're excited. I mean, it's going to be a lot of work, but we're really excited.
Really excited. Now, when you were, I guess, doing your research for all of this, as far as this project, what else did you discover about that area?
The area has a lot of character and a lot of deep roots, and a pretty interesting mix of kind of socioeconomic mix. And I was talking to somebody that's up in that area, and when we kind of talked through the plans that we're working on, along with what the county's proposing, and given that this intersection kind of Rivers, Cosgrove, and McMillan is the epicenter of Charleston County, the way he phrased it was it's an opportunity to get it right. Okay. And I think that's a really strong but accurate way of putting it. And by that I mean it can be a positive development that's not one that displaces people that have been there forever, but can bring new life into the community as well.
Would you consider putting a grocery store in that building?
We've looked pretty hard at that, and we can't fit into the hospital itself. I mean, along with residential, the way we've got it laid out, but it's not. Put it this way: grocery stores kind of follow population growth, and that area is going to grow in terms of population growth. Southern North Charleston is growing.
Sure.
I mean, I'll be very curious to see what the 2020 census says, but I think that's going to ultimately come. We're working actually on a grocery component in the Garco project because we understand and know how important it is to people and businesses in that community, not just the Navy Hospital community, but north and east and west. So We're long-term players. We believe in it long-term. We projects like the cigar factory here, we develop. We don't sell. We try not to. So we're kind of in it for the long haul, and we see that as an area that really is going to be, I think, the center of the Charleston MSA. And it geographically already is, and infrastructure-wise, it largely is as well. So I think it's just a matter of time, really, on the grocery front.
That was awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Well, State Representative William Cogswell, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome anytime.
Yeah, man.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
You too. Yeah.